All right, so really excited to introduce our next guest. Assuming he's here, I haven't seen him yet. Is he here? All right. We will indeed proceed with announcing our next guest. Our next guest is a really awesome person that we're really excited we could bring out today. His name is Ryan Leslie. And his story is amazing. He's going to tell you, I'm going to give you the quick version, but he's going to tell you the whole story. See, Ryan is a Grammy Nominated artist, entrepreneur, and developer. His first record contract he landed with Motown Records. He sold his first album. He sold 180,000 copies of his first album. But as an artist, he saw practically no money. So he made another album, and he released it. And it wasn't selling a lot of copies. And so he asked Motown, he said, how come you're not marketing it to the people who bought my first album? And they said, because we don't know who those people are. And he basically said, idiots. So he went independent, he learned how to code, and he built an app to allow him to communicate with his fans. And he got a Twilio phone number, and he put that phone number everywhere he could. He gave it out at shows, he put it in his Twitter profile, and he invited all his fans to text him, and he personally has replied to over 50,000 fans, building a one-to-one relationship with his biggest fans, which is amazing. And because of that relationship he's sold tens of millions of dollars worth of his music, and he's now raised $1.5 million from Ben Horowitz to productize that software he built and actually bring it to other artists who also need to build relationships with their fans. He calls it Superphone. So please welcome up Grammy-nominated artist, developer, hacker, and entrepreneur, Ryan Leslie.
How are you? Hello. Can you guys hear me out there? How you feeling after a full day of talks and mind melding and it's a lot to take in, right? I was just watching the guy right before me, man. It's like there's a lot going on out here, man. I was like, man, my app is like so basic compared to what he's talking about, right? So let me give you a little bit of background. What's up, Stevie? I see you right there. Got a couple friends in the building. Sometimes maybe people have texted me before. Maybe, can you put my phone number up there? I don't know. I think they made a slide for me. Okay, here's my phone number if you ever want to text me. So I'll give you a little bit of background. My name is Ryan Leslie. My family, my parents are Salvation Army officers. So what that means is that they sacrificed themselves in the service of others. When I was born, my grandparents, because my mother was still in college, my grandparents took me and raised me for the first 9 months of my life in a children's home in Suriname. And after that, I came back, rejoined my mother and my father, and we moved all over the United States because the Salvation Army is actually organized like the military. So, born in D.C., Atlanta, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia. By the time I was a junior in high school, I had already gone to 4 different high schools, and I was tired of moving, so I just applied to college. And straight out of my junior year, even though I applied to 7 schools, did I apply to 7 schools? Yeah, I applied to 7 schools. 6 let me in, 1 said I was too young. So the college that said I was too young was a college in Connecticut called Yale. I said, look, Ryan, I think we might be jumping the gun a little bit if we admitted you because at 14, we don't think you're socially developed enough for college. And so I had to pick a different school, and so I ended up going to Harvard. And I got a letter, like you know how when you apply to school, at least in the United States, when you apply to school, if you get a big envelope, then that means you got in. If you get the regular letter size envelope, then good luck to you, right? So I got a big envelope my sophomore year at Harvard, and it was from Yale, and said, hey, Ryan, we just wanted to check in with you. You had a great application. We wanted to know what you did with your year off. And I said, well, I was a freshman at Harvard my year off. A lot of fun. So my father, the reason why I went to Harvard so young wasn't necessarily because that was a big dream of my own, my parents being immigrants and giving their whole lives to the service of others in the Salvation Army, they really needed to try to put in place for themselves a retirement plan. And that was Ryan Leslie. So you can imagine the way my dad felt when he got the phone call. I'm a freshman at Harvard, everything's going great. It's my first time that I'm away from sort of like parental guidance, sort of the rigors of how they had raised me to be this academic prodigy. I go to Harvard, I no longer have parents around at all. In fact, I'm surrounded by a bunch of Harvard kids. And I get the call, I get the call of my dad, and I say, hey, Dad, you know what? I want to thank you so much for getting me into Harvard and everything, but, I went to Widener Library, and I'm really into biographies. He said, oh, well, that's great. Who are you reading about? Like, Bill Gates? I said, well, no, I read this autobiography of Stevie Wonder, and it turns out he put out his first album when he was 11. So I just wanted to let you know that, like, even though I'm 15 at Harvard, I'm, like, behind Stevie Wonder, so I just wanted to let you know that this is what I've decided to do with my life. And you can imagine the horror. I mean, I couldn't see him. Like, we didn't have FaceTime or video chat. It was like 1994 into 95, and I could just kind of hear the silence on the other end. But I think the moral of that story is that somehow I was able to make it happen. And fast forward, probably just 10 years. They say it takes 10 years for somebody to be an overnight success. 2000, yeah, it takes about 10 years, right? So 2003, I found myself in New York City, and I landed my first big break. And Puffy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, whatever you want to call him, Puff Daddy, he was my manager for 2 years. What was interesting about that time, though, is that in that first year of being in New York City, I was able to generate, because the music industry was, even though it was kind of coming down, I would say, in revenues, I still was able to generate a lot of money as a music producer, especially being connected, having a close connection to someone who had all the deal flow, like Puff. And so in my first year of being in New York City, I personally made myself as much money as my parents had made in 30 years serving in the Salvation Army. And so it was an interesting conversation when I could call my dad and say, hey, Dad, I made it. And he said, well, it took you 10 years. But what's beautiful about that story is I started to see the way that the web was going to change how music was discovered. It was going to change the way that we interacted. It was going to change the way that we discovered friends. It was going to change the way that I interacted with my friends and family. And that change, in 2004, had a name. It's called MySpace. It was a big change. And so in 2004, myself and one of my friends who was at UC Irvine, we figured out a way to actually game the Google algorithm, if you will. And what we found out is that MySpace wasn't doing any bidding on its own keyword. Because when you looked, this is what we discovered, right? They're not bidding on their own keyword, right? So when you typed in MySpace in the Google search bar, myspace.com was organically the #1 Google search result for MySpace, the keyword. And since they weren't doing any bidding on their keyword, and it was getting a lot of searches, we decided we would create, through a network of, I would say, a few sites that our friends were running, right? Some crazy traffic towards any page in the MySpace ecosystem that we wanted. And so we needed a few guinea pigs for this experiment. So, I had my little MySpace profile. My other friend from Harvard had a MySpace profile, but we were all guys. And so we needed something that said, okay, well, if we're going to do A/B testing, we need to have something that's different than us. And so looked around, and there was my girlfriend. I said, hey, would you like to try an experiment with us on MySpace? I said, well, what's MySpace? Oh, just trust me on this, right? And she turned out to be, she was from Connecticut, and she had moved to New York City. She was a model in New York City. And it just so happens that when you put a beautiful woman on MySpace, both guys and girls would like to be her friend. If you put a guy that looks like me on MySpace, what's so funny? Just like, right? In any case, what happened was that her MySpace profile became the #2 organic Google search result for the MySpace keyword. And over the next 3 months, we watched that profile go from 0 to 650,000 friends. And because I had made a little song for her, because it was a MySpace music profile, we watched that record go from 20 plays a day to 200 plays a day to 2,000 plays a day to 20,000 plays a day. And the phone started ringing, right? Because A&Rs at record companies were starting to say, oh, well, this is a new discovery platform. Whoever's #1 on the MySpace unsigned, on the MySpace indie charts, we need to sign them. So I had a few phone calls, but finally I got the phone call I was waiting for. It was Puff Daddy on the line. Hey, Ryan, I heard you got an artist, man. She's moving out here. It's crazy. It's awesome. I said, yeah, man, you told me get it hot in the streets and people would call. I said, well, I'm calling, man. It's great, man. Let's do something together. I said, well, you also taught me if you want to do a deal, you got to make me an offer I can't refuse. And he outbid everybody for that project. And it was the only time, it was the first time and probably only time, that someone who had a significant social following, and I'm saying more than 250,000, sold as many records as they had social followers. So here was a case in which someone grew a social audience from 0 to 650,000 and sold 650,000 units. Hadn't happened before, hasn't happened since. Beyonce today, probably over 75 million Instagram followers. She's definitely not selling 75 million albums. Justin Bieber, we won't talk about. What did I learn from that? 2 things. Number 1, relying on a platform where you don't own the audience means that one of 2 things can happen. 1, either people migrate away from the platform, or number 2, as in the case of Facebook, they just charge you to reach your audience. The second thing I learned out of that experience is that when you have a smoking hot product on your hands, people get excited about the product. People fall in love with the product. And Puffy fell in love with Cassie. And that's his girlfriend today. I wrote a couple of albums about that. My heart was broken. I wrote a couple of albums about it. My first album, like Jeff was talking about, sold 180,000 copies on Universal Records. My second album, arguably better musically than the first, was nominated for a Grammy and only sold 60,000 units. And like Jeff was saying, I walked into the marketing meeting at Universal Records, and there I was in a boardroom kind of just throwing darts at the wall, trying to figure out what was the issue. How was it that I made a better body of work the second time, and we only sold a third of the albums? Now, I had a mentor when I was at Harvard. He's now a professor of organizational behavior at USC, but he was getting his PhD in organizational behavior at Harvard Business School, and he told me a couple of things. He said, 1, Ryan, if you want to understand how to build wealth, you should look at what Amazon, what Google, what Apple are doing. I said, okay, great. So when I had a little money, I put a little money in those companies. Turned out okay, right? And he said, number 2, what I would recommend is that the record industry as you know it today is going to be completely disrupted. So if you want to be a little bit more risque in the stock market, I recommend you short any publicly traded music company, right? So it's an ironic balance that was happening, because there I was in the market shorting the same label that had released Cassie's album and doing well on both sides, right? Pretty interesting. The beauty, though, in studying a company like Amazon was the reason why I was sitting in that marketing meeting, because what I understood about Jeff Bezos at Amazon was that he could actually reach every single customer. Not only could he reach them, he didn't have to send a tweet or post on Instagram, post on Facebook, right? He was paying some money for customer acquisition, but once he acquired a customer, he had them. Then he understood their spending habits. He understood the books they were reading. He understood the products that they were reordering. He could introduce Prime. And for me as a musician, I didn't know anything. All my data was in a black box. Even Apple, once again, was employing the same customer information wealth, if you will. And so I thought to myself, hey, how is it that we're in 2009, 2010, and we don't have an email address on every single person who's bought my album? Apple has it, right? And so, well, Apple's a black box. That's personally identifiable customer information they won't share with us. I said, well, what's the strategy then? Is the strategy just throw stuff at the wall and just hope that people listen to it and Shazam it, and then somehow by some connection in the web they go to iTunes or somewhere else or walk into a store and actually get it? Like, this just sounds completely ludicrous, if you will, in a modern, connected, technological world. And he said, well, Ryan, look, you know, if you got any good ideas, we'd love to have them, but like, honestly, with only 60,000 records, like, we got bigger artists that we got to focus on. We got Drake, we got Nicki Minaj, we got Lady Gaga, we got Akon, household names. I said, well, if 60,000 records isn't material to you, how much does it cost for me to just buy myself out of my contract? Because 60,000 records to me, if I sell them direct, not through iTunes, it's a lot of money. So we made a negotiation, I left, and fast forward to 2013, I was thinking about how I was going to take everything that I had learned and apply it to some new model. And originally, before I knew about Twilio, I spun up a Google Voice number. And the idea was very simple. If you've ever bought my album before, send me a receipt from iTunes, text it to me, because I want to thank you personally. That got old very, very, very quickly. And not because I ever got tired of hearing the messages, but just because, you know, either typing or texting, you just get tired. The first 100 messages are super exciting, and then it gets very, very redundant. That's why I'm sitting in a room full of developers who are like, oh, you could just automate that. Right? I ran into some issues, though. Google Voice doesn't have an API. I can't really automate it. Number two, if any of you from the UK would have sent me a text, I can't actually hit you back because Google Voice restricts my messaging to only the US and Canada. So there's a guy in the back, his name's Florian. He sent me a message. I think he might have said something along these lines, like, hey, I did a reverse lookup on your number, it's Google Voice, and I know you can't respond to me, so I'll just email you. He sent me an email, said, hey, I build apps. I want to link up on your next tour, let's build some apps. He showed me an app which was kind of a basic artist app. Hey, we can stream your videos, we can play some music, we will put your merch store in there. And I said, what do you think about building like a Twilio UI? He said, well, I'm sure we could do it. And I built a very, very simple automation chain. The first thing I wanted to know, and if any of you have texted me, you probably have received this message back already, which is, hey, I don't recognize your number. Can you put your info in my phone so I know who you are? And I think all of us in here, if you actually had a publicly displayed phone number, you would probably want to ask the same thing. Or even just yourselves in this environment where you're meeting a lot of folks that you want to connect with. No one's really solved the sort of business card thing. It's like always super awkward. Here's my card, so I just add you to my phone, etc. Whenever I go somewhere, I just say, look, just text me, and my phone's going to follow up and get your info. They say, oh, really? Yeah. Shoot me a text. You get a link back. There's a form you fill out. When the form gets filled out, you're added to my phone. I'm currently managing about 46,000 contacts in my phone, which have all been added to my phone by the people who've texted me, right? So that saved me a lot of texting back and forth. Number two, I'm not selling on iTunes. So I can plug into the Shopify API, and when someone gives me their email, I can check and see if they've ever made an order. If they haven't made an order, I can trigger a recommendation. And when they make that order, based on a webhook, I can trigger a message that says thank you. So basically how this will work, Stevie Graham could shoot me a text. I don't recognize this number. My phone's gonna hit him back. Hey, I don't recognize your number. Can you click this link, fill out your info? He fills out his info, checks my Shopify store, and says, hey, Steve, I noticed maybe you didn't hear that I have a new album. Here's a link. Why don't you check it out? Let me know what you think. Wait about 10 minutes. Boom. He's like, you know what? That's cool. I can't believe an artist actually recommended I buy his album. I'll do it. He buys the album. 5 minutes later, hey, Steve, I saw you just got my album 5 minutes ago. Thanks a lot for that. I see you live in the UK. I'll shoot you a text next time I'm performing. Simple automation, 3 things. It's not a bot, right? It's automation of what I would do if I met someone for the first time or I met a fan for the first time. It's not the same. It's stateful, right? It knows whether or not someone's texted for the first time. If someone's texting for a second time or a third time, it doesn't give the same response. 33,000 people texted me between 2013 and 2014. 1 out of every 2 bought my album. 50% conversion. 9 out of every 10 put their information in my phone. I sold 17,000 albums, and then with the help of another one of my friends, Mr. Wind, we sold 40,000 tickets. No label, no manager, no PR, no music videos. Straight off the iPhone. Couldn't believe it. But even more interesting, though, is I started to understand that here we are in 2016, messaging may be eventually the dominant form of human communication. And here I was, because I had built this little app for myself, I now had basically built an automated inbox for SMS, an automated inbox for Messenger. And when I was giving my phone number out, I'd meet people in person. I said, well, what is this? This is cool. And I said, well, your Vodafone doesn't do this? Your T-Mobile, your AT&T, your Sprint doesn't do this? I said, well, no, it doesn't do this. One of the people who sent me a text was a kid by the name of Tristan Walker. He's an entrepreneur in residence at Andreessen Horowitz. He went through the flow. He got a thank you. He's not stupid. So he said, look, Ryan, I don't know if you're texting me back or if this is a bot, but no matter what the circumstance, the fact that an artist, when I just bought his album, had the foresight and cared enough to even program something to thank me over text is awesome. You should meet Ben Horowitz. I didn't know who Ben Horowitz was. So I told him, look, I'm going on tour, man. I don't know who your friend is, but... Took me 3 months to actually do the meeting. We did the meeting in January, and it wasn't a room like this. It was just me, one of my friends, Nathan McCartney, Tristan Walker, Ben Horowitz, sitting in a room. And I didn't do kind of like the long pitch. I just kind of like showed him, like, hey, all my fans can text me, and 33,000 people texted me, 17,000 bought my album, and I did it all independently, and it was all automated, and my marketing spend based on Twilio fees was only about $3,500 across all the texts, and I made like 660,000, and he's like, yo, I'm in. I love this. He's like, you're a little too early stage for Andreessen Horowitz, but I love the fact that you figured out how to do this. You should productize it for everyone who has a following that they're building, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Medium. The most powerful social handle in the world, at least today, until we have some sort of universal ID, which may be our Facebook ID, the most powerful social handle in the world, to me, is a mobile number. A mobile number. And the reason why we don't give our mobile numbers to everyone is because we don't have the same level of automation and filtering that I have. And if everyone had it, then maybe we would really be able to have a more connected world. And so even though I built Superphone initially as a fan texter, if you will, I can't tell you the number of venture meetings that I sat in and people just kind of said, oh, well, this is what is this, fan engagement, social media engagement, et cetera. What I realized that I had stumbled upon almost is that with automation, with technology, I could potentially fight against science, right? Science says that we can only keep in touch with 150 people at a time. We can only keep track humanly of 150 people at a time. How many people in your phone right now, if you've got 500 contacts, I would venture to say that probably 90% of those contacts are just sleeping in your phone. They're just sleeping because you're connected to the people that are most important to you at any given time. And then we all know that awkward feeling where we need to raise money, we're running a marathon, we need someone to speak, you need a favor. The person who's a good friend, when you initially talk to them, you go back and you're like, oh man, I haven't talked to that person in 8 months, and now it seems like I'm only calling them because I need something. I built now a platform in Superphone that allows me to build deeper relationships, not only with just a huge scale of fans, 56,000 people on text, but to build deeper relationships with the people that matter most. So now I've been able to build in analytics. When someone texts me for the first time, I can tell how long it takes for them to respond to my text. I can tell when we have a text conversation, what's the interval between our text conversations. I can tell when they make a Twilio call to me, how long they spend on the phone. And I can tell the intervals between phone calls. And I can build a relationship score that tells me how warm my relationship is based on my communication with someone. What good is a contact record in your phone if you're not actually communicating with someone? Very weak. Very weak. What good is a LinkedIn connection if they don't respond to your in-mail? Very weak. People that show up, people that answer the phone, people that respond, that's when the magic happens. That's why I love this company, Superphone. That's why I love the company that it's built on, Twilio. And that's why I love the promise of what technology can actually do for the future. It can actually deliver on that promise that we can be more connected. I got a lot of Instagram followers. I got like 250,000. I got a lot of Twitter followers, 550,000, 450,000 likes on Facebook. I've never felt more disconnected in my life than when I had over 1 million followers and I couldn't sell 60,000 records. Today, when I press a button and send a text, I know that 98% of those messages are going to get read, and I know about 50% are going to act on whatever I suggest for them to do. Pretty insane. So I'll leave you with a couple of clear examples of this. One of them is there's a kid who signed up for our service. He's a stock boy at Walmart. So because I have everyone's phone number, I can just call people, right? So I called him up, said, hey, listen, you signed up for Superphone, you work at Walmart. He was like, do you want to be a rapper? You following my footsteps? Yeah, that's what it is, right? He said, no. So were you getting a lot of text messages? You can't manage them? Like, is that why you signed up? You need an inbox for all the messages you have? He said, no. I said, well, what is it that you want to be? He said, well, I would like to be a district manager. I said, well, why do you believe that Superphone is going to help you become a district manager at Walmart? He said, well, right now, the boxes get delivered of canned goods. I take the boxes, I put them on the shelves, and every couple of months, the big wigs from Walmart come to visit my store. Because I'm a stock boy, the guys come, tap me on the shoulder, hey, man, you're doing a good job. Anything you need, man, here's my number, right? It's good corporate culture, good corporate community, right? And he says, I'm actually the crazy guy that asked them for their cell phone. And even though he gives us a look, we need my cell phone, gets the cell phone, and he says, I put it in Superphone, and I realized that the people who get the promotions are the ones who are friends with the people who give the promotions. And so Superphone allows me to schedule follow-ups. Every couple of weeks, hey, what's up? You know, it's your guy over, the stock boy at Walmart. You gave me your card, told me to call you anytime. Just wanted to check in and say thanks for the opportunity. He said, my belief is that a better relationship, a warmer relationship will be the difference between my $35,000 a year salary this year and maybe a $38,000 or $40,000 salary next year. Beautiful story, beautiful story. Another story a little bit closer to my heart is that me and my girl, we have a nice Sunday afternoon somewhere, and she drops her phone, as we all do from time to time. The phone cracks. She's like, Ryan, you know somebody who could repair my phone? Oh. And I said, well, maybe we can go to Chinatown, New York City. I'm sure somebody will replace your screen, right? And then I thought to myself, wow, I got 46,000 people in my phone who've entered their information. So I did a search in my phone for iPhone. There were 5 results. The number 2 result was a guy by the name of Huggins Jerome. And he'd entered his information, job title, gadget fixer, screen replacement, technician. Picked up the phone, hey, Huggins, man, you know who this is? Oh, it's Ryan Leslie. Yo, is this Ryan Leslie? Yeah, it's Ryan Leslie, man, yeah. I'm just wondering, listen, my girl just dropped her phone. Wondering, like, what are you up to this afternoon? You guys, yo, I will come from Long Island. And he drove from Long Island. I mean, you could go to his Instagram profile. He drove from Long Island and said, look, I just fixed supermodel Danny Braga's iPhone. Thanks for the referral from Ryan Leslie. He did it all for free. Like, it's really incredible what happens when you have a warm relationship. Sometimes people make irrational decisions. Right? So the final story I'd like to leave you with, and it leads into a performance, which I'll show you the result of this story, is that someone sent me a text and said, hey, Ryan, I had a birthday party, and I wanted to share the video with you. So, oh, okay, cool. He's like, for the birthday party, I redid one of your songs. It's not karaoke, but kind of, I said, okay, cool, I'll just check it out. So I checked out his video, and, the video opened up, and there were just, Lamborghini after Lamborghini after Lamborghini. I said, what kind of birthday party is this? This looks like a rap music video. And so, yeah, he sent the video. I said, yo, this is a great video, man, And he said, well, Ryan, anytime you need cars, man, let me know. I run a carpet business. He runs like a very high-end, he does rugs and carpets for high-end hotels and everything. And he lives in Belgium. He shot me a message and said, yo, one of your songs, Swiss Francs, it inspires me to hustle harder, man. And I'm the president of the Lamborghini Club. So anytime you need cars for video, you let me know. I said, well, how many cars are we talking? I said, well, I mean, you pick the number. I mean, what kind do you want? So it's great. I said, well, you know what? I wanted to think about a really cool, simple way that I could take you up on your offer. How about a video where I'm just standing in a garage with 30 Lamborghinis? And he said, well, okay, when do you want to do it? I said, yeah, whenever you can get the 30 Lamborghinis. And so I made some more very detailed, creative restrictions. I said, look, I only want 80s and 90s Diablos and Countaches if you can put them together. And he says, you know what, Ryan, give me a couple weeks and I can make that happen. And so, sure enough, a couple of weeks later, he gives me a call and he invites me to this garage in New Jersey. And I walk into that garage with my little team, and we had our little, gimbals and DSLRs. And there it was, a garage full of 80s and 90s Diablos and Countaches. And I just stood in the middle of that garage, and I performed the music video that you're about to see. It's called Never Break Down. And so, what's the moral of the story? I mean, what's the moral of the story, man? I've told you a lot of stories. But I think I really touched on it when I said, look, the reason why we're here, and I think the reason why when I say here, I'm talking about here on this planet, right, is because I think intuitively, at least for me, and maybe I'm a little skewed because my parents devoted their lives to the service of others, we feel as though we're most valuable when we're making a positive impact on the world. The way you make a positive impact on the world, at least for me, in my experience, is not by simply sitting in a room by yourself figuring out how you're going to change the world. It's actually by having the conversations with like-minded people, and not just conversations, but taking them from online to offline, like we did with T-Ball Van Reenie in this video that you're about to see, and galvanizing as a team, galvanizing around ideas, whether it be AR or VR, automation, AI. Everyone knows AI doesn't really exist yet. It's really just machine learning intelligence. At least that's what I learned last night when I was reading through in preparation for this. But finding that cause, and for me, it's connecting the world. And I think I'm linked to Jeff in that same cause, connecting the world. And so I'm just happy to see all of your smiling faces, people who stuck it out all the way to the end. I'm sure there were a lot more seats filled at 9, 10 o'clock this morning, but you guys stuck it out to the end. And I want you to check out one thing in this video that I'm going to play for you, and it's T-Ball. T-Ball Van Reenie is the guy who put this together. And he said, Ryan, I got one request. If I put this together, I got to be in the video. I said, well, T-Ball, it's just me in the garage with the cars. And he said, no, I got to be in the video. I said, well, okay, well, what do you want to do in the video? Said, well, you know, give me something to do. I said, well, all right. He says, well, you know what? Actually, I got an idea. What I want to do is like, I want to, you know, you'll be wrapping around the cars and everything, and then I want to get out of one of the cars and give you a handshake. I said, okay, I want to give you one shot at that. We've got limited time today. I'll give you one shot at that. If you mess it up, then you just have to stand there with shades on like this in the video. All right? So we do the take. Yeah, all right. Rolling, action. We do the take. We're going. T-Ball Van Reenie. And then he just doesn't let go of my hand. I said, well, T-Ball, you messed it up. So I promise you could be in the video. So you'll look in the third verse of this video, and we'll cue it up. It's called Never Break Down, and you will see my homie T-Ball Van Reenie, who put 30 Lamborghinis in a garage for me in New Jersey for this video, and you'll see him just standing there in the video like this with his shades on. Cue up the video, man. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll never give
Never.
in. I'll never give
Never.
up. I'll never break down.
We can pump the music up in the room. It's a finale. This is a grand finale. Hey.
I'll never give in. I'll never give up. I'll never break down.
Here's my story.
Never break down.
Yeah.
Hey yo, I moved from the futon, now I'm in the mansion. Took over the game, hold that shit for ransom. Never forget the day a supermodel said I'm handsome. Dad fell in love with her, he just wanted grandson. I was in the studio, I was skipping classes. 15 braces plus Coke bottle glasses. Living in the future now, being broke is past tense. Cash game stupid boy, I ain't with the plastic. People ask me how I'm living, I say very great. I switched my level from a feather to a heavyweight. You see I laid the blueprint so y'all can replicate. Ask me how I rose above, I learned to levitate. I made some money, put my mom in that Mercedes ride. Felt so good to see the pride in her old lady's eyes. I pray for her success and her continued health. Spend it on her before I spend this money on myself. Yeah, I'll never give
yeah.
I'll never give
Never.
I'll never break down.
I never break down.
Break down.
Yeah.
I'll never break it down.
It looks so good, don't you agree?
I'll never give
Yeah.
I'll never break down. I'll never break down.
I love the participation. Listen. Yeah, artists out here lost, looking for advances. Come sit at my round table, I got all the answers. Teach you how to hustle, boy, put you in the trenches. You should know this money from these labels too expensive. Take their money, then they put you on the fucking shelf. You be better off to do that shit your fucking self. 101, homie, move that music hand to hand. 18 months, I was looking at 600 grand.
Future looking brighter through my new Cazals. 40,000 strong, you should see my ticket sales. We do them real sets, we burn stages. We writing rules, man, we turn pages. Vision taking pictures for my history book. Fuck with me, I'ma show you how this history look. Everything I recorded is till the end of time. They gon' have to take it from me, I'm defending mine. The champ.
I'll never give
Yeah.
up. I'll never give
Never.
up. I'll never break down.
Never break down.
Never break down.
Never.
I'll never give
Yeah.
up. I'll never give
I want you to pay attention to this third verse. A cameo from my homeboy. Yeah. Grant myself 100 wishes, that mean I'm a genie. 580 horses in my Lamborghini. When I pullin' beauties out, that mean I'm with Van Rini. I'm disguising 30 cars, that mean you never see me. I'm good to my women, sleep as much as I can. Pray my sins are forgiven, put my trust in his hands. We gon' take it to the pinnacle, the highest heights. Before I lead this mortal earth, they gon' say Ryan Nice. A legend.
I'll never give
Yeah.
up. I'll never give up. I'll never break down.
Never.
Gonna break down.
Never see me giving in, no.
I'll never give
Never.
up. I'll never give up.
I'll never break down. Never break down. Twilio single London.
Give it up for Ryan Leslie! What a story! That's amazing.
Thank
Ryan, you gonna be around at our after party?
Yes, I will.
Awesome. So that's about it for Signal London 2016. We are really excited to wrap it up, and we're really excited to see what you all build in the coming year. It's been an awesome day. SMS Country, Guidelines, Voice Insights, the Corrento team joining Twilio and opening our Madrid office. This has been an awesome day, and we can't wait to see how you use all of these things. But for right now, all you gotta do is go have some fun at the after party downstairs. We'll see you around. Thank you very much, London!